Welcome back to video 3, and in this video we will complete our workbook on pricing merchandise. And so we're going to take a look at how to price merchandise based on the selling price. Previous lessons were pricing the merchandise based on cost, and if you haven't had a chance to, there is a video that has the completed table for both the equations page and the markup on cost page completed. So if you haven't checked your answers from video 2, go ahead and pause this, take time and go back and do that, and make sure you understand how to get those calculations completed. So next up, markup on selling price. So that will be this page right here, and right away we can see we need to fix something here. Based on cost is incorrect, so let's go ahead and make that adjustment there. That should be based on selling price. We'll go ahead and fix that. So we have an example here. Let's take a look at this here. First of all, we can calculate the markup amount. We have a cost given to us, the selling price, the markup amount, the difference between selling price and the cost. And so that formula is right there. We have taken, in this case, C6 minus B6, which is the selling price minus the cost, gives us the dollar amount of $19. So the markup rate, now previously we took that markup rate and calculated it by the markup divided by the cost, but now it's going to be the markup divided by the selling price, because now the selling price becomes essentially the whole amount, or the 100% that we base all of our calculations upon. So let's go through and do one. Line 2. Selling price minus the cost. Difference $4.25, and that rate is equal to the markup amount divided by the selling price. So go ahead, pause the video, and do the rest of these calculations right here. Here in the next sequence, we're going to need to calculate our cost based on a selling price that is provided and a markup rate. So we're going to kind of work backwards here. So the first step that we need to do is we need to calculate the complement of the markup rate. So if our selling price is $33.50 and the markup rate based upon selling price is 16%, then the cost of that merchandise has got to be, in this case, 84%, because everything has to add up to 100%, and based on selling price, the $33.50 is our whole amount. So, how to calculate the complement? Let's go ahead and put a heading in here. So the complement of 16, here's the way that we can do it with the formula. It's going to be 100%, or 1 minus the 16%, and that should equal 84%. Let's do one more. Complement of 18% is going to be 1 minus 18, 82%. So you can do that for each of those. I'm going to go ahead and just copy those. So now we have all of our complements. So once again, if we want to be making 16% of the selling price, then the cost has to be 84% of the selling price. Let's find out. Equal sign. Selling price times the complement of our markup rate, and there's our cost. You can also do that formula by, if you want to click on your percentage first, the complement times the selling price. And then you can go ahead and finish those. And then we'll move on and take a look at the next section. Next up, let's calculate the selling price when the cost is given to us. Before we do that, I went ahead and completed these tables. You can go ahead and compare your numbers. Here's lines 1 through 5. Check your answers, make sure those are working out okay, and then I went ahead and completed lines 7 through 11. And so take a second just to look at those and make sure you've got those calculations correct. Be sure to ask for help if something's not working out right and you're not getting those numbers. Let's change this worksheet just a little bit here. You notice these numbers here are the same, but for practice, let's go ahead and do this. Let's delete these. And then let's go ahead and key in these cost values here. And in that way, we can do our calculations and compare them to the selling price here to make sure that our methods are working. Okay, once again, we need the complement of these values. And let's just go ahead and do it again for practice. 1 minus 16, there's our 84%, and then copy that, get all of our complements. Because we are going to use the complement, except this time instead of multiplying by the complement, we're going to divide by the complement. Let's take a look at why that is the case. We've got a little example down here. So here we are, price based on, we'll do a comparison too. Price based on cost from the previous lesson, price based on selling price. So here's what we did in the previous video, was all based on cost. And so I've used $100 to make our calculations simple, easy to understand. So if our cost is $100 and we want to mark it up at 10% based on cost, it's simply going to be 10% of 100, which would be $10. 10% times 100. And then we simply came over here and added that amount to our cost. 100 plus $10 equals 110. But based on selling price, you'll notice that our numbers are going to be a little bit different because we want the 10% to be based on the actual selling price, not on the cost. So it's going to be a little bit more. So here's why this is going to work, and we're going to be dividing by the complement. Let's take a look here. All right, if we want the markup to be 10% based on selling price, then it would follow that 90% of the selling price should equal 100 in this example. Therefore, the equation looks like this. Selling price times 90, or 90%, equals 100. And then solve for P. So using your algebra skills, we're going to divide this side by the 90 so that we can move it over to this side. And then we end up with the selling price equal to 100, which is our cost in this example, divided by 0.90, which is the complement of our 10% markup rate. And then we solve for that, so the selling price equals 100 divided by 90% equals $111.11. And so that's how we end up with that amount right there. And then, of course, our markup is $11.11. So let's see how this is going to work out. Let's do some practice here. So here's our cost. Here's the complement of our markup rate of 16%. So in order to calculate the selling price, we are going to divide the cost by the complement. Equal sign, cost divided by the complement of 16%. And hopefully they're equal, and yes they are. Let's try one more. Cost divided by complement of our markup rate. $16. And so that is how you calculate the selling price with the markup rate based upon the selling price. So go ahead and finish those off for the last few. And I've got some additional practice problems for you here that you can go ahead and calculate. And then I will go ahead and finish this and you can compare your values. So go ahead and pause the video at this point and practice lines, looks like 15 through 17 and then 19 through 22. And here are the completed calculations for you to check your work. Once again, please ask questions if you have them, and as always, thank you for your participation in Room 8.